All right, welcome to section 4.3. In this section, we are going to be looking at polynomial division. So there's two ways that we're going to be able to complete this division. One is by doing long division. So that's what I mentioned first, polynomial long division. The second is synthetic division. So you're going to see two ways to divide polynomials. Now, when I first say divide polynomials, a lot of people don't even think that's possible. So what I mean by dividing polynomials is if you take a polynomial like this. So for example, let's say 2x squared plus 9x minus, so plus 9x and minus 18. A lot of people think that's not even possible. So we're going to divide that by x plus 6. So when people see this for the first time, they just don't think that's possible. 2x squared plus 9x minus 18 divided by x plus 6, again, scares a lot of people off. Well, when we do this first part, which is polynomial long division, I need you guys to think back to long division. So let's say, for example, you are doing something like 100 divided by 5. Okay, so when we do that with long division, you first see how many times 5, in this case, can go into 1. That's too small, you have to add another digit. So how many times 5 can go into 10? Well, it goes in twice. Then you do 2 times 5, which gives you 10. So you end up doing this. 10 minus 10 is 0. You bring down 0, and 5 can go into that, so 0 times. So you get 5 can go into 100 20 times. So in this case, we end up, let's do another example. In this one, there's no remainder. Let's do another example. Let's say we wanted to see how many times 7 can go into 30. Well, in this case, we look at how many times 7 can go into 30. We get 4, and when we multiply, we get 28. So now we subtract 30 from 28, and we get 2. Since there's nothing else to divide, and it didn't end up with a 0 like we did here, we get a remainder of 2. Now, when you have a remainder, what that means is you take 4, the number of times 7 goes into 30, and you write the remainder as a fraction over the divisor. This is the divisor, the number you are trying to divide by. The dividend is the number that goes under the divide symbol. So what you do is you take the remainder and you write it as a fraction over the divisor, which in this case is 7. This is important because when we're going to divide polynomials, they're not always going to be nice and even, like 5 going into 100. A lot of times you're going to end up with a remainder, and you always write your remainder as a fraction over the divisor. So let's look at this example where we actually divide our dividend, which is 2x squared plus 9x, by a polynomial, our divisor, which is x plus 6. So what we're going to be looking at, the whole time you're doing polynomial long division, you're concerned with multiplying your divisor first term by whatever number it takes to equal your dividend term. So here we're dividing 2x squared by x. So another way of looking at that is, what do we need to multiply x by to equal 2x squared? In this case, we can see that it is 2x. Another way of saying that is x times 2x equals 2x squared. Now, our next step is to multiply 2x by this whole term right here, by our divisor. So we get 2x times x. That's going to be 2x squared. And then we're going to multiply 2x times positive 6. So we get positive 12x. Okay? Now, just like in our example here, we need to subtract. So we're going to take this entire term and subtract it from our dividend. So 2x squared minus 2x just gives us nothing. We're left with 0. And 9x minus 12x gives us negative 3x. Okay? Now, since we still have a term left, we go ahead and bring it down. So we get minus 18 here. Minus 18. Now, since we're down here, oh, sorry, disregard that. Since we're down here, we take 2x, we've already done 2x. Now we want to know, what do we need to multiply x by to get negative 3x? We're moved on to our next term, so now that we subtracted, we're looking down here now. We need to know what we multiply x by to get negative 3x. In this case, it's negative 3. So up here, we write negative 3. And now we are looking at multiplying our whole divisor by negative 3. So again, just to do this one more time for everyone, we are looking now down here. So what do we need to multiply x, our first term, by to get negative 3x? So we got x times negative 3 equals negative 3x. And just like the previous problem, we are multiplying, or the previous number, we're multiplying our whole polynomial times negative 3. So negative 3 times 6 gives us negative 18. Now, again, we have to subtract this whole polynomial from the top. So when we take negative 3x minus negative 3x, our sign changes, and we're left with 0. And negative 18 minus negative 18, our sign changes, and we're left with 0. So this is an example, like over here, where we have no remainder. So to recap, we get 2x squared plus 9x minus 18 divided by x plus 6 equals 2x minus 3. Now, a way that you can check your answer, if you take your dividend, so in this case x plus 6, and multiply it by your quotient, or your answer up here, so 2x minus 3, you should get your dividend right here. So your divisor times your quotient should give you the dividend. Now, that is just an easy example. This was a trinomial divided by a binomial, and it went in perfectly with no remainder. So, we got this nice even answer here. Now, all of the problems that we do aren't going to be that simple. We're going to have some longer dividends, some larger divisors. We're going to have some remainders here. But I want you to be able to look back to this example. Look at your old numerical division right here. See how we work with remainders. Remember this example. When we do 7 or 30 divided by 7, we get 4, remainder 2 over 7. That's how we're going to write our remainders in these problems too. So I always like to think back to this long division with numbers that we did in elementary school. It helps me remember how we write remainders in this long division. I always remember we're only working with the first numbers here. When we're doing our long division, we're always trying to think about what number do I need to multiply my first term by to get the first term that we're looking at in each part of our process here. Here we looked at what number do we need to multiply x by to get 2x squared. Well, that's how we got 2x. what number do we need to multiply x by to get negative 3x? Well, that's how we got minus 3 here. So an area that a lot of people make mistakes when we have our numbers here, our binomials or whatever terms we get that we're subtracting, always write it in parentheses and then write your minus sign. So if you have to change signs here, you will always see that. A lot of people will forget and they will just subtract these values and they'll end up with a wrong term. So again, I know this is a lot right now. It's a lot to take in, but as you see these examples moving forward, you're going to do better at them. So after this, let's go ahead. We're actually going to work on a larger example now that you've seen the basics for this. If you have any trouble, always go back to this problem and you can watch the basics just to refresh your memory on how to do some of the more complex problems.